So thanks for being on the podcast.
Of
Why
course.
don't you kind of tell people a little bit of who you are and where you where you live and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, Zach. And my name's Rodell Razor, and I live in the greater Phoenix area. And I've lived here for just under 6 years, about 5.5 years. And I'm originally from the Seattle area. And I grew up, and I'm so excited to be on this podcast and talk, more about what athletes can do after sports, how athletes can leverage themselves, things like that. Because I grew up as an athlete, played every sport under the sun. Was a pretty good high school football player. Ended up going play college football. I'm a small guy. I'm 5'7" on a good day. 100 in college or in high school I was 130 pounds. So wasn't heavily recruited, but I had a few schools that gave me some opportunities to play football for them. And so I ended up playing my career at Eastern Oregon University. Had a pretty dynamic career there. Became an All-American. As a small defensive back, and returned kicks and punts. Had a lot of fun doing that. And then after that, I wanted to pursue a little bit more. So from a kid who was not really supposed to make his varsity football team, I had a chance to play professionally. And I played arena football for a season. I blew out my shoulder. And after my shoulder injury, it was 2010. After my shoulder injury, I was like a lot of athletes. I was like, okay, well, now what? Like, I could probably get this thing sewn up. I could try to go out there and play again. But for me, I had realized that football was probably over. Just from having a chance to play at the professional level where I saw guys who were NFL talent. And I was pretty I became pretty self-aware. I wasn't at first. I think not being self-aware got me to where I was. But then, eventually you just get to a space where you're like, wow, like this is a different game. So then I went back and got my master's degree in business because I was like, well, I don't know what to do. I went to a football university. I didn't really pay attention the first 4 years. So I was like, I got through with decent grades. And I studied business as an undergrad, went back and got my master's. And to fast forward a little bit after that, I went into the business world and I started having a lot of success. I grew up very humble beginnings, and my mom was a single mom. So I wanted to start making money. My plan was to go to the NFL. And so when that didn't work out, I was like, what am I going to do? So I got into sales, went from door-to-door sales to car sales to, and then I got into corporate positions where I was a vice president of sales for a software company. And the career line that's when it took a shift because I had started climbing the corporate ladder. I was really young, making pretty good money in corporate sales and high-end sales and managing a team all over the country. And I was just bored. I was bored out of my mind. I really was. And a buddy of mine wanted to open up a gym. And we grew up together. We were very close friends for, 15 years before that. I knew who he was. I knew he was a good trainer and wanted to open a gym. And he reached out to me because he was like, hey, man, business and sports. So maybe you can help me with this. And so that was 8 years ago. And now we're the #1 sports performance facility in the entire country. And so that's been something that we are very proud of. My partner, Tracy Ford, it's called Ford Sports Performance. And my partner, he's very dynamic. He's a heck of a trainer. He trains a lot of the Seattle Seahawks, a lot of high school football players in the state of Washington, and even all over the country. People fly from all over to come train there. And so built a really great brand there. And he gives me a lot of credit as far as like the strategy and the business planning and the operational things that, helped a company get started. And so in that, what happened is people started to reach out to me and go, hey man, like, how'd you help Tracy? How'd you do this? How'd you do that? And so I've been able to be more hands off now. And he started sending me clients. And so I became a freelance consultant kind of just randomly. And that's really where my consulting career kind of started to blossom. It was about 6-7 years ago. And it's kind of freelancing. It wasn't designed to be like a career, but I just loved it. I loved helping startups. I loved helping athletes transition into opening their own gym. I loved helping, struggling businesses have more success, giving the business owner more freedom. And so that's what we do now. And so it's been an amazing ride. And I am a husband and a father of 3. I got 3 little boys, Connor, Crew, and Caleb. They are 7, 5, and 1. My wife Brittany and I just celebrated our 4-year anniversary. Thank you very much. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about my journey, at least career wise, and the fun that we've had along the way. And most of my clients now are, most of them, I would say, are former athletes, whether men or women, who wanted to get into business for themselves because we kind of speak the same language.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are gyms. I do have like some grocery stores and some ministry groups, some nonprofits, things like that as well. But most of them are gyms who, they gotta, in a lot of gyms, they're in a space where they're opened by maybe a former athlete or someone with athlete influence. They know how to work out personally. They go get certified as a trainer. They go get a job as a trainer, and then they go, I can do this myself. And then they go open their own facility, not really having all the business readiness that maybe someone who goes to business school and aspires to build a business. A lot of people come through a different door in the gym space, so they need someone to help them with the business acumen and the things structurally, financially, marketing, sales, things like that. So that's a bit of what we do. And yeah, I absolutely love what I get a chance to do. It fell into my lap, but it's become a calling, so I'm very grateful for it.
It's nice. You can combine those two passions together, and that's usually what I tell my prospects as well. Is you need to kind of find a way to do what you still love off the field or off the court, and
100%.
kind of leverage that. So what do you see? What do you see right now being in today's day and age? And we'll just leave it at today's day and age.
Yeah, right.
You see the most exciting aspects for athletes and businesses in general in the growth.
I think right now the biggest opportunity for, I'll talk specifically to athletes, but I think this is for really anyone, but we'll bring it down from anyone, business owners, and then athletes who want to go into business. I think right now it's the power of the internet. The internet has shown I believe it's shown its dominance in the space of need. If you want to build a brand, if you want to build a company, I really just feel like the power of what people can do in a mobile marketing space, position themselves, personal branding space. I believe personal brands, they've always been popular. You look back to like Dion and Joe Namath and, guys like that, like those guys, they had brands back then. But now brands can just go so much faster. And they just have an ability to get so much more reach. You look at people like Muhammad Ali, like massive reach. You'd have millions of people following them before the internet, right? So now I think that because the internet is flooded with so much activity, the ones who are good, who have a real message, or have a real product, service, influence, impact, message, whatever that may be, I believe that the internet is the greatest tool for someone right now. And finding a way to position yourself, whether it be aligning with certain companies that can help you. And I'll talk, I feel like especially life after sports is like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you really going to go do? Right. And so it's aligning yourself with maybe some ready-made companies that can help you, with that transition, and not transition like they're going to like give you a job, but where they can utilize your brand and help you create revenue, whether that's giving you equity or things like that. So that your brand, while you have the posture that you do, because eventually it goes away, right? Like, I don't think, and as much as I love Deion Sanders, I don't think he's getting a lot of endorsement deals right now, right? And definitely not the ones he was getting, right? So it's just eventually, no matter how big your brand is, no matter how successful of an athlete you are, your brand starts to taper down, just like our careers do. And so while you're in your prime, utilizing the internet in some capacity, finding a way to build a personal brand that people can really feel connected to. Because right now I see a challenge with a lot of athletes kind of being a bit too celebrity or attempting to be too celebrity. I see a lot of college athletes, see a lot of high school athletes where they're hiding behind the perfect image. And what I mean, like, is they almost don't post on social media because they just want that one picture that has the super short caption that has no connectedness to the people. They get a bunch of likes because they're very popular, but they're not connecting. And so when they transition or they blow out their knee and they're, a sophomore in college and like they're popular within their college network, no one cares, right? Because there was no value being added after that. So you got to build that. And so when you have the platform right now, I believe utilizing that platform to truly connect with people and build relationships, add value to people. So.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And it's one of the things that I kind of see that, and I see a lot of athletes kind of being all over the place with that celebrity aspect. They like to, build websites where they're like, oh, I want to show all my pictures of me playing, or I'm going to sell just 2 shirts on there. And I have to explain to them, hey, let's just help you focus on one thing. We need to really focus on one marketing direction for you, and really reaching your audiences. And that's just, yes, social media is a great platform for that, but leveraging the social media, but also leveraging other platforms like blogging. I think blogging is a huge, yes, there's, 500 billion blogs out there, but athletes don't really blog. And if they had a company to help them blog and optimize and things of that nature, their fans want to hear more of their life story, more about what they're trying to do. So trying to find that one niche, especially with gyms. I think gyms is and that's funny you said that, because I see a lot of athletes, and that's why my niche is somewhat a little harder to branch out, because you get a lot of athletes that want to do their passion, and gyms is one of the huge ones. And trying to get them to understand, hey, social media is great, but that's only one digital marketing effort. And I think that's the hardest thing to get athletes to understand is, hey, social media is only one. We have multiple other avenues. We want to turn those fans into customers for you, in one way or form or another. So how do you define a really epic athlete brand? Like, is there someone out there that you think that you see as doing it right?
I think that there's a lot of people doing it right. And there's some people that I'm really drawn to. And I wrote down, I was thinking about this because I wrote down, I knew we were going to talk today. I was writing down some names. I'm like, man, these like, whether you followed sports or not, names like Michael Jordan, Allen Iverson, Michael Vick, Kobe Bryant, Tim Tebow, right? Like, he's gone kind of a different direction with his brand. Guys who really like lean on, part of their brand is, who they are in their faith, like Drew Brees or Russell Wilson or Steph Curry. And then there's the guys that I think are really cool that have, just different, like Dennis Rodman. I don't know if you watched the special earlier this week, or like Ron Artest, right? These guys were like kind of bad guys, right? So they have these huge brands. And I think one of them is impact. It could be positive impact, could be negative impact, but I think impact is definitely something that defines a high quality brand. Obviously their reach. We were talking about Muhammad Ali earlier, like having like a reach, and that's what you're trying to continue to expand, because the more people you can get inside of your influence that can do more than just click, double tap a picture, right? You get them to take an additional action. And so having that reach, I think a consistency. And I think that comes from on and off the field. Like, who are you, your character, your ability, right? Because they are judged by their performance. So I think their consistency, I think purpose. I love when I hear an athlete that operates out of purpose. I think that really matters. I think when they're talking about they play for something bigger than themselves, they're playing for something more than the money. I love guys like Larry Fitzgerald and Drew Brees, the guys that are just, they show up every single day. They got phenomenal brands. Maybe they're not super high profile, but they're not short on getting paid. But I think they're also very wise in the way that they strategically place themselves with certain companies and alignments that they have, and the partnerships that they have. And so I think those things define a brand. And then obviously alignment, making sure that they it's just weird for someone. I'm just going to take Drew as an example. It would be weird based on the brand that he has to be partnered with like Budweiser. Like, I think that would be strange.
Exactly.
Right? Like, it wouldn't match. Right. Or even, I think one of the most iconic, strange things that happened in the world of branding was Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart blended, right? So those kind of things are just a little bit goofy to me. They don't really align. They get traction, but as far as brand consistency, it can throw some hiccups in the way people relate to you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think it goes back to athletes and their passions, because if they're passionate about their food, for instance, and you're talking about, working out and stuff like that, partner with a food company, partner with some sort of health company. Me and my wife, my wife actually, unfortunately, she has MS, and that's when me eating healthy, I kind of learned to eat not fake healthy. I was watching my macros, but I started to, you start creeping into those carbs that you just are trying to gain, And so I had to learn to kind of step back and stuff like that with her. But everyone needs to know that kind of stuff and understand the health benefits of certain things. And so that would be like a good direction for an athlete that maybe, trying to do a gym. I see a lot of athletes that, there's one down here in the Valley, I won't say his name, but that I see he has his own gym and he does everything from shirts to, workout bands. He just throws his logo on it. He does protein powder. He does food stuff. And it's like, that's all great. It's good to have that consistency, like you said, but focus on one of those and really kind of help promote it. It brings up the value, but it also probably helps the sponsor themselves want to pay you more money because you're focusing more on that one individual brand and growing with them.
No, I think, what's one thing you said there, some people are so attached to their name being on every single label. But what happens if it's like, let's just say that I have Rodell Razor protein, and then I got Rodell Razor t-shirts, and then I have Rodell Razor shoes, and then my bands. Like, what happens is my influence of people that like me, maybe they can buy, but I don't expand my influence. So if I'm not an expert at formulating protein shakes or creating sneakers, I don't have to be the owner of that company. I can partner with another company where they have an entire network of people where now my celebrity or my status, I expand because they really love, like I was partnering with a company called Advocare. I became a Drew Brees fan because I was partnered with that company, right? So though, like he could have went and made his own vitamins, his own supplements, his own pre-workout, but because he had, millions of fans that never would have really connected with him maybe. And so it just helped build that brand identity and that, for himself, because of those alignments. So, and I think sometimes people get too much into like the stingy ownership, where they're just like, I want my name on everything. And it's like, well, like, what if we just aligned you with a company that actually has more credibility in that sector, and get you some additional fans? Like if I partner with a big company, I can create my own Nike shoes or my own tennis shoes, or I can partner with Nike. And now I'm going to get, all the Nike fans to follow me and things like that. So I think those type of strategic alignments are important.
Yeah, the strategic alignments and I just forgot what I was going to say. I had something on top of my head. But me personally, I'm a huge Atlanta Falcons fan. I've been a Falcons fan since I was a kid, Michael Vick era, things of that nature. And so the funny thing is, I still respect Drew Brees. I still like watching him play, even though he's a rival of Atlanta Falcons. I still love watching him play. I love what he does. But then there's other players that I won't name that I just can't stand because they don't align correctly with what they're doing, and a lot of negative stuff. And those are the kind of things that I feel what pushed me away from wanting to follow that person. And what I think what I'm kind of remembering now is I look at me and my personal business. And one thing that I try to get across to athletes is I get this gut feeling in me. I want to be known. I want to be, I love in helping my clients. I love watching them grow, which in turn just helps me grow. And that's like a feeling inside that was very similar to when I play a soccer game or I play something and I was, winning. And so I try to tell athletes, your name being on everything, think about it differently. Think about that. You want that feeling is really what they're going for of being
that's
successful, being that's being successful. And it doesn't have to be ego. I mean, yes, it starts out that way sometimes, but it's a lot like winning a football game. It's like you did something yourself. You get that pride of you made it through, like you, for instance, you made it through a certain step and you got there all on your own. You probably get that same feeling with your business as you're growing because you're like, oh, I'm successful. I've done this all myself. It's a grind every day. I work hard. It's that same feeling. And I tell them, you don't have to have that passion that you have. Doesn't have to be your name on everything. It can be just the business itself and being successful and helping people. And helping your clients is you could get that same feeling from it.
Absolutely.
So is there any moments that you see out there, and you kind of brought up a few people, a few moments that you've noticed maybe recently or in the past that you've seen an athlete say or do that you're like, oh man, like that's epic. That's
I think. Yeah, no, one of the, on the negative side, I should say, is obviously what happened with Antonio Brown last year.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, and I'll say this, like, I thought for the longest, up until, obviously there was something around, there was some mental health stuff there. But I thought for the longest it was a media play. I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. Like from a attention standpoint, obviously, right? His brand is very much an attention grabbing brand.
We're in marketing, so we kind of
I got
look at that stuff.
Like when I was talking about the whole helmet thing, I was like, yeah, there's no way he's taking this. He's not that serious with it, right? So I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a really good move, and it could have, he got a helmet deal out of it. He was starting to really monetize that kind of strategic. Being annoying, I guess that's the best term I can come up with. I don't know him personally. I shouldn't call him annoying, but the attention was kind of like, what is he doing? Like, how is he tripping off this helmet? So I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was absolutely.
It happened out of nowhere. He was always the quiet one. Like he was always through his.
He kind of turned into a Randy Moss TO all of a sudden, and I was like, oh, we got Chad Johnson. Like, and I thought he was a really quiet guy. So. It was very unique. It was very unique to see that. I thought it was brilliant. Sad, what's going on mental health wise and everything else that's going on in his career, obviously the way that's kind of eventually unfolded. But yeah, I think that was pretty epic. That was something that I think people will talk about, especially 10, 15, 20 years from now, talk about the helmet deal. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. My wife is actually in mental health. She got her master's in mental health. So she works with a lot of children and stuff like that. So I get to hear her stories all the time from a different aspect. Yep. And I see, so I kind of have a somewhat, biased opinion on that as well when it comes to being able to see that stuff.
Yep.
So unfortunately, I agree with you on that, but it was crazy. It happened out of nowhere. And it just goes to show athletes that negative influence has much of a higher impact and harder to dig out of. It's a lot like, doing marketing for somebody. If you do one thing wrong, they're going to notice that more so than they're going to notice
way more
the good stuff that you do. And so you kind of have to look at that, and you have to, it could be intimidating for them, for athletes, because they want to make sure. But that's usually what agencies like and marketing people like you and me do. We kind of focus on helping, let's make sure that we're always being positive. Let's just even being the coach and kind of just having that second ear. Yeah, that was an unfortunate. I always like to go back to Tom Brady because he has a very interesting. Hold on just a second. He has a very interesting story. And looking at the way he did it, I kind of did a brand analysis on some of his collateral a few months back, and just to kind of dove into everything he's doing. And he was very genius. He did the whole. I had my personal brand. I had my personal account. And then if you watch how he did his Facebook Lives and how he slowly brought people on, he slowly moved that over to, a business profile. And he leveraged what he had and still kept that personal. And I think that goes to show that personal branding and corporate branding are two different things, but they don't have to be. You can transition the personal brand into a corporate brand down the road. But I don't think it's a coincidence that he went to Tampa Bay, because you look at the name of Tampa Bay and it's TB, and I'm like, I don't know if anyone else noticed that. It's pretty simple, but I don't know if that was his driving factor. But to me, it seems like it was a pretty high thing on his list.
I'm sure the TB brand, TB12. Obviously, Florida and Arizona, the two places you go to retire. So he's looks like he's going to land the plane in Florida, so I'm not mad at him for that. Another one I want to mention that's one of my favorites is Marshawn Lynch. I think that guy has the coolest brand from being very personable with his fans, but very leave me alone from coaches and media. It's the way he's done it. It seems, and I've never met him. I have some friends that actually know him personally. It seems that that's his authentic self. He just seems like he's this is who I really am. I'm not putting on the show. At least that's what he's portraying, and I think he does an awesome job.
Well, it was brilliant. I remember when he wore the beast mode hat at the NFL. I think it was just a conference, or it was the draft. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but I remember he got fined for that. A whole bunch of money for wearing that. But at the end of the day, look at how much people saw the brand. Yeah,
I know. He's exposing his brand. It's marketing, right? You spend money on marketing. I'm going to put this hat on. I'm going to have to spend $30,000 because the NFL is going to charge me for wearing my $12 hat. My hat cost is $12, but I'm going to pay $30,000 for the marketing spot. But I'm going to make $200 grand on sales, right? So, yeah, I think what he's done with Skittles, what he's done with the Beast Mode brand. Beast Mode was something he said in college, as like he just said it randomly, and then it's just become, obviously. But that's where I talk about like the consistency, where it was like he said it in college, he played beast-like, and then he really coined the term Beast Mode, right? So that's where I think consistency is so valuable, because like I've been a fan of his for 15 years, and it's the same dude. I feel like he's evolved as a professional, but he's still very Oakland, right? Like he's still very rooted in his city, and he's always connected with his people. Like when they saw he was on the BART, which is like the city tram with all the fans back and forth to the stadium. Like he just seems like a normal dude. So he's done a good job with his brand. But anyway,
yeah,
I digress.
It's one of those situations that, going back to what you kind of said with the money situation, I think that's interesting that you brought up. I wonder if he thought about that with the exposure, because I always try to tell, especially professional athletes, you're getting free advertisement from being in the. Think about it more. You have to think about the NFL, unfortunately, is a business. It is.
Right.
You have to think about it as a business, and what you're doing in your career more so as a business and less so a career, and leverage that free marketing in a way to leverage it as much as you can, because at the end of the day, when you're done, you're either going to become an announcer or do something that you professionally want to do outside that's you're passionate about. So I think he did. I think he did a really good job. Good job at that. So when it comes to the athlete landscape, what's one of the things you think more athletes should be doing overall when it comes to leveraging their brands?
Networking.
Yeah,
I think networking. I think building like authentic relationships with, because I'm trying to say this the right way, but everyone loves athletes, and there's athletes who have more influence, at least as far as people knowing them. But a CEO of a small business or small to medium-sized business probably has more connections that are valuable. Yeah. And so I think that blending that or if you're an athlete, you can probably get positioned pretty well, with, people very high in the business world. If that's your desires to go into business, that's obviously the context. But I think you can, because everyone loves athletes, like you can walk into most places and build a relationship with the owner or the CEO. That's a valuable relationship, and learn some networking skills. And then I think there's another part of the personal and professional development, that what they do is incredibly hard work, especially if you get to the highest levels of professional sports. It's more than a full-time job. If they're able to develop themselves, in the off season in some other categories, obviously they're trying to get the competitive edge. So they're always training, and like, they don't really have the time that I'm saying that they should do. But if they're able to network and build some professional skills, that because they have so many transferable skills, but then some of the skills that can help them go operate a business or go be a contributing member to a company. Because a lot of athletes, you see them get into sales really fast, just because usually they have some leadership skills, they know how to communicate. So they just transition into pharmaceutical sales or whatever it may be. But if they can get to positions where they can network, I'm so grateful for one of my mentors. He owned a couple car dealerships, right? I was grateful that I had like that relationship when I got out of sports, because then I had a job, I had some skills. He was willing to train me and mentor me, and mostly, he liked me as a person, but mostly it's because he was just a fan, right? Like he just kind of liked working with me, like working with athletes, to like telling his kids that he was working with a professional athlete. So it was like those type of things that you can do, that you can leverage, is network on purpose. Not just shake the hand and be, kind of distance, but network on purpose. And it's kind of hard because you do have the celebrity factor. Like if Larry Fitzgerald wants a local plumbing company, like he's not going to be able to have a business conversation because everyone's going to want to shake his hand and get his autograph. But if they're able to network on purpose, build some authentic relationships with people that can help position them. I think I think that's something that they can do. And I also think that learning more of the business side of what they do. Like you said, the NFL is a business, the NBA is a business. Professional sports are a business first. You think, you can go back. It's like the Colin Kaepernick situation. It's like, I don't believe it was about, the racial tension. I believe it was about the business of it looking bad. One of their premier players doing something that made some of the nation upset. It made
exactly.
the brand look bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it was a political position. It was like, hey, we have a company we're running here, and that's what the NFL has to care about so that it keeps operating. If they cared as much about some of the other issues, it would be harder and harder for them to operate if they got bogged down into every social issue, because it is a business. The businesses don't care about people. People care about people. Businesses don't have a personality. They're just a business, right? They're designed to operate and maximize revenue. So that's capitalism. So I think athletes who can understand that the NFL is a business, like Bobby Wagner, he negotiated his own contract, which is the highest paid linebacker in the NFL right now, negotiated his own contract. He understands this is a business. I'm going to go learn this. Like in the offseason, he's studying contracts and seeing, learning the CBA and things like that, to where he doesn't have to pay, that 3 to 5% to his agent. He negotiates all of his own deals. And those, you think about that money over time, especially the volume of what they get paid. It's a wise decision to network on purpose and to learn the business of what you're in.
Yeah, that's a good advice. And it's hard. It's hard to, it's not like they could go to a normal, like we were talking about earlier with chambers and stuff. It's not like they could go to the local chamber group and just be like, talk about this. That'd be almost impossible. But they could, you're right, go out and they could talk to business owners. Are a great one. I mean, I feel like being in the corporate world myself for almost 10 years before I decided to go out and be on my own. I learned so much in the last, 3.5 years than I've learned in the corporate world. And a lot of that too, because I like change, and that's one of the reasons I left the corporate world. But overall, it definitely helps, and learning yourself definitely helps a lot. Not saying learn everything to you to master it, but learn the basics so I mean, right now, damnedest if I could not go out and help any business make money, because or even open multiple different businesses, just because I'm like, oh, I know how to do this marketing now, and I have my employees on staff that can do most of it, so it is one of those situations where learn what you want to do. So yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. What tool, with that said, with with talking about networking, do you think there's any sort of tools online that you feel athletes could take advantage of?
Yeah, I think, for them, it's probably safest to utilize some form of social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn could be a really valuable one. I never made it to celebrity status as an athlete. But I believe that most, you talk about in each sport, there's probably about 100 people in each sport, maybe 50 that like everyone knows. And then outside of that, like they're just a dude, most people don't know them walking down to the grocery store. So, and so I think, utilizing some things like that, right now, I still think the hottest platform is still Instagram. It seems that that's where, as far as attention, that's where attention is going from, I think 35 and down age group. That's where all eyeballs are. There's a lot of eyeballs everywhere, but I think that's where the most consistent brands are being developed. But I think the ones who can utilize LinkedIn, build some relationships, set up some meetings, get on some conference calls, things like that. I saw Peyton Manning, he did a Zoom with his old professor. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like he jumped into like their classroom because of what's going on, quarantine. So he jumped into like the Zoom session and he just kind of shared a story. And I just thought, like, if athletes that are current athletes would jump in and do something like that, because someone in that, it was a business class, it was an economics class. Someone in that class is going to go start a business and have relationships, right? So just doing things intentionally like that. And I saw Matthew McConaughey did the same thing at University of Texas. So it's like these people that Peyton Manning, Matthew McConaughey, they don't need to like they don't need to network at where they're at in their careers. But if I'm lower tier, professional athlete or aspiring professional athlete, like my teacher probably would think it's cool. If I call my old professor and I'm like, hey, I'd love to jump in one of the classes and just kind of share my story, and like just doing those networking things on purpose. So I think right now, if someone can utilize LinkedIn, at least as far as an online tool, and and this is, kind of segueing into what I think the future is of sports. I think the sports agent is going to change. I think it's already forcing to change because there's a lot of athletes, there's a lot of athletes that excuse me, are learning how to negotiate their own contracts. So an agent who just knows how to, the collective bargaining agreement, or knows all the X's and O's of contracts, or, they got a legal background or whatever, I think that is going to go away. I think an agent is going to be a networking source, and someone who could teach things like real estate, starting your own business, marketing, sales, business development, personal development, professional growth. Like, I believe that's the agent's role is going to be more business mentor focused than it is contract negotiation and sponsorship focused. I just think that will be the at least appropriate place for an agent. I think they should still be certified. They should still understand all of those things. But I think over the next 10 years, you're going to see the information in the contracts of athletes is going to be easier to understand because it's being forced to by players associations. So it's going to be easier to understand. It's not going to be legal jargon to where the average person could read through it and understand more of it. So that athletes can either keep more in their pocket or utilize that percentage to leverage in investing in the real estate, investing in the stock market and other business opportunities, things like that. And the agent is going to play a role more in those things. So I think financial advisors, business people like that will serve as a better agent than someone who has a relationship with Nike and a local TV station, and knows how to negotiate, how to get, an extra, $5,000 on your contract. I think those things will be easier for the athlete to kind of do on their own. Easier, not easy, but easier. And the other part of the business, which is extending your career. What are you doing at life after sports? Kind of like what Kobe was doing. Kobe was doing a lot of these things on his own to prepare himself. Like, he wanted to be a movie director. He wanted to write books and all these other things. And so I think agents will help guide people, because Kobe made that really, obviously with the passing, people understood like Kobe was on the move, like even while he was playing. Yeah. And so I think guys are going to want to be able to do that. They may not have the discipline of Kobe Bryant, but they're going to want to do that. And then I think, an agent or a mentor is going to help guide that. And that's going to be kind of the future of the sports agent.
That's interesting you say that, because that's kind of why I kind of got into what I did, because I noticed such a huge I see so many sports marketing companies not understanding. They'll make a website or they'll do something for an athlete just because the athlete wants it. And I see these and I'm like, wow, man, they could have done this. I'm not going to say way better, but utilize better opportunities for them personally. When I was first trying to get out with one of my athletes, he introduced me to a lot of his agents, and I was kind of talking to them, and I was talking about him branding his own product. He was doing a pouch product. Mike Kafka, he's now the NFC, the coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was coming out with this product, and we were kind of talking to some of his agents, and his agents were like, no, we don't want you to brand yourself because Nike doesn't like that. And it's like, I have to tell, the athletes, it's not that Nike doesn't like it. It's just that that Nike doesn't want to have to pay you for that royalty fee, but they will. They will. So there is always this I think this misalignment with agents. And I think that I agree with you. I think that now that a lot of digital marketing stuff is coming out and a lot of easier ways to connect with people, I leverage athletes. I tell, like you just said, tell athletes, learn some of that stuff on your own. Maybe go to school for business or to be an agent. That's the double dip feature, you can do. And letting them know that, hey, man, you pay a lot of taxes. Write as much stuff off as you possibly can. So based on your knowledge and expertise, what's the future? What do you think, you kind of just mentioned that. You kind of just went sports marketing, but do you see any more, stuff when it comes to digital marketing or branding and marketing in general that you see the future of for athletes?
Yeah, I think for athletes, my partner Jeremiah and I came up with this concept called the athlete entrepreneur. Like, athletes are, in most part, W-2 employees to the league that they're representing. So like you said, they pay super high taxes because They are employees. They're not business owners. I think the future is, and so many people talk about like the Michael Jordan's deal with Nike, how like he's getting ripped off and he could have done it so much better on his own, blah, blah, blah. Michael Jordan didn't have the infrastructure to do what Nike did for Michael Jordan either. Like he had the brand, and that's where a lot of people, they think, I have the brand, that means I can go do it. And that's not true. You need the infrastructure, the business operating systems on the back end. He was busy shooting hoops and winning dunk contests and winning championships. He didn't have the team, the marketing, the branding, the how many, he's selling more shoes now retired than he was playing. This had a lot to do with his playing, but more to do with the way they positioned his brand. And they had experts in branding, marketing, and sales and design, experts in those things that, yes, he could have hired those people, but he wouldn't have been able to manage those people because he's busy still playing. And so I look at athletes now that if they can get ahead, and I think that's a good example, Michael Jordan's a good example of like, hey, just partner with that brand. Partner with that brand, get the royalties for the rest of your life. That's a good partnership. But then there's the other pieces where it's like, okay, now what do you have after playing? Thankfully, the big time athletes, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, they'll get royalties forever because their sneakers and gear will always sell. But someone even like Allen Iverson, like the Reebok sneakers aren't selling the way they used to, right? So it's what are you doing to create that entrepreneur and ignite that entrepreneurial spirit, so that you can have assets, digital, physical assets when you're done playing. So that those assets, and an asset by definition is something that is increasing in value, right? It's something that has value and it can increase in value. And I think most athletes, their number one asset is their body. And then that's where they invest everything. And just like anything else, if you look at your body as an asset, I invest everything into the stock market, which is my body. Stock market crashes or I get injured, I'm left.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Right. I'm left holding nothing. And so athletes, I think the future is seeing their physical body. Yes, it is an asset. It's the most viable asset right now. It's the most valuable thing that they have is their body and their ability, and their leadership skills, all those things that they bring to the sport. But there's other assets that they got to invest into, and they have to be on the cutting edge of those things. So surrounding themselves with people, consultants, agents, advisors, people, marketers, business people, surrounding themselves with people because people want to be in those circles. Like even myself, if I get a call from a professional athlete, guess what? I'm probably going to jump on a plane and go want to work with them. Right. So like, and then they have the trust issue, but if they can figure out how to attain more assets, which could be a business, which can be property, which could be platforms, which can be technology, if they can acquire more assets and develop more assets and invest into more assets, I believe then that athlete can transition into an entrepreneur, even if they want to be a philanthropist, even if they want to be a teacher and a coach. They can still have a career as, their money doesn't have to go through the toilet. And then the last thing is right now, like you talked about Tom Brady, I think if athletes can truly connect, if they stop, just posting the one picture of them getting off the plane with their Louis bag and, like they can really connect on purpose, like they have something to hang out with. And I'm using Dion a lot because I feel like Dion now, like he's always been like so connected. Like he's always like, you always felt like you kind of knew him, right? Like if you came into my house, I'd be like, yo, what's up? Right? He wouldn't know me, but I'd be like, hey, like I feel like I know him. And he goes on his social media, he talks about his kids all the time. He's got a kid who's a dynamic athlete. Dion is always going live on video, things like that. Like you feel connected to him. Him, Shannon Sharp, like these guys, they have personalities outside of just being so cool. Like they really connect with people. They go Facebook Live. They have their family in their branding and things like that. I think that they can do some of those pieces. I think that can help a lot because people actually connect with them. And then when they're done playing, people will still be, buying whatever that they're selling or at least following them. Their brand doesn't have to die, even though their career as a professional athlete is over.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. You want the fans to feel more connected, and I think with digital marketing these days, that it's a good way to, and that helps them too, feel less intimidated.
Yep.
Feel like, what do I post about today? I have an athlete right now that I'm helping and telling her what to post, helping her with her posting and stuff like that, and she's thinking too much, and I have to tell her step back a little bit Do what you enjoy doing and how you're helping. If you're talking about basketball, why don't you help with basketball tips? That's a good idea to kind of, and she'll just luckily enough probably get more followers because she is an athlete. And so I tell her, do stuff that you feel comfortable doing. It will grow. You enjoy the journey. Like Gary Vee says, you enjoy the journey. And it was funny that you mentioned the whole aspect of assets scenario, because the way you have to kind of look at it is, if you're growing a business, I see a lot of athletes trying to go cheap with trying to grow a business. I'm not saying spend millions of dollars on a business, unless it's like you're getting a commercial property, like you said, and you doing that. But learn that it does take a team. I look at Undisputed itself, and you don't think that he made that whole, made that whole website himself, that whole brand. He has a whole team behind him, because you have to have, I won't name them all, but there's at least 7 or 8 people, specialties that go just behind making a really good strategy and successful. So leverage a team. I think that's a good idea. Leverage a team a lot like on the field, leverage a team. It takes more than one player to win a game. So, same thing with the business, same thing with doing. So going back to your networking, find the people that you feel comfortable. There is that aspect of the trust issue. And I think LinkedIn is a good place where you can break that down. I think that a lot of athletes just have to watch out, because right now LinkedIn's very high on spamming.
It is.
I had to stop using it just because I can't even connect genuinely anymore, because people think I'm just spamming. So you actually have to really watch out to who you connect with on there.
Totally agree.
I think LinkedIn's a great way for them to break that barrier of that. Well, again, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate taking the time out. Let everyone know kind of your name again and where they could find you and all that nifty stuff.
Yeah, Rodell Razor, and best way to find me right now is on Instagram. It's at Rodell Razor, RODELLRAZOR. And yeah, that's the best way to connect with me right now. I will throw in a plug for our business. We really do help maximize profits. We help, minimize your risk and maximize your profits and streamline some of your processes. And I would say that as what you do, Zach, in the marketing field, there's marketing experts, there's branding experts, there's sales and, logistics experts. What we bring is really operationally helping structure the company and bring the logistics together so that the business owner can really plug and play and have fun in their business and work more on their business than in their business. Because sometimes we become employees of our own company in trying to help them be visionaries. I believe there's visionaries and there's doers, right? There's people that are like, I just give me the job and I'll just do it. And then there's visionaries. I believe that what we do and what I'm great at is I'm that middle piece that helps connect the vision to the action. And so, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure. Whenever I get an opportunity to talk about athletes in business, athletes in life, I think, if you move your body, you're an athlete. That's the way Nike defines it. But those athletes out there that have a big span of influence, they have the greatest opportunity to create some leverage in their life. So they don't have to be a statistic of a professional athlete or even a college athlete where, once they're done catching the ball or dunking a ball or swinging the bat, whatever it is, that they just become forgotten, that there's a life after that. And for most people, careers are over in their 30s. Like for me and you, that's when our careers get started. Right. So, so I think that's something that I'm very passionate about. So I appreciate you having me on.